Yeah, it's working. All right,
Oh,
cool.
we got a scarf now. You're fucking fancy.
Thanks, Zencaster.
I got a lot of scarves. 3 exactly.
Excuse me?
I have 3 scarves, Michelle.
All right. Hello. My name's Michelle Perez. It's actually been an okay week. Not perfect. Not grand. But also not diminishing. I don't feel like any new information has been learned this week. And since we're sort of unstuck in time in our recording schedule, you won't even have any point of reference for this shit, given that Twitter kind of induces a sort of goldfish brain. I'm Michelle Perez. As always, I'm joined by my various homies. We have Eliza Gager. I'm staring at some shit you can't see. And Eliza basically looks like Blade Runner with a big ass fucking soccer ball in front of her, which is pretty dope. Jake,
Look,
he's just
I've
vibing.
tried to be normal my whole life, and it just never works. Like if I show up to a place and I'm wearing normal clothes, people are like, "Oh, hey, what are you cosplaying as?" So fuck it, I give up.
Yeah, no. Right now, I think everyone I used to know that was genderqueer adjacent, now they just call each other faggot and talk about raw dogging all the time. I don't know what the fuck is happening. And as always, Ruben. Ruben's wearing a scarf. He's never worn a scarf before, and I don't know if I can trust him.
My
I like
signature
it.
scarf. I've had this for 5 years. Thrifted
None
this
of you
scarf.
can see it.
You
It's
look
great.
you look like the captain of a lesbian sailboat. I like it.
Doctor Who realness is what it's giving me.
And today we are joined by a very special guest. You may have seen his work on Twitter.com, a website where, you know, I'm going to be contrarian today. I think there's a lot of cool things on Twitter, and one of them is art.
Controversial.
That's right. That's right. If the critics have something to say, I have something to say back. Suck me. With regard to that, we're joined by Beany Tuesday, aka at Chalk and Smirk, a very talented young artist with a penchant for very hilarious observations on online subcultures, people's internecine reactions to one another within those subcultures and how they consume them and whatnot, and also deeply introspective stuff, as well as doing a deeply homoerotic action shonen / The Office style comic in Bad Enders. Welcome to the pod. Welcome to Workinonit, Beany.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Two quick points of fact. My at name is actually Beany Tuesday. Chalk and Smirk is my display name. So
Get her ass,
fucking-
Beany. Get her ass, Beany.
I've removed $1 from your tip that you will be receiving at the end of the show.
Thank you.
and-
Thank you. Doing my job for me.
B, we'll have to examine the homoerotic nature you see in Bad Enders, because I tried to impute that work with what I call dark heterosexuality. So there's clearly a sort of divide between author and artwork here, but we can maybe get into that in a later point in the show.
Michelle, what do you have to say for yourself?
I was busting out earlier, reading the scene where Jay and Abel are in the bar, and them politely observing the go-go dancers, the hunky go-go dancers, and the whole scene was hilarious. It kind of. Did you ever see the one Devilman sort of alternate, a straight-to-video movie where it was that scene where he's like, "Fuck you," in this super hyper exaggerated way? I got like a lighter version of those vibes from that scene.
I'm not familiar with the scene, but I'm sure the vibes are similar. I'll take your word for it.
Yeah,
Sounds like a Devilman vibe.
Well, yeah, no, there's a Devilman basically where basically he goes dark, and still the same Devilman outcomes because Go Nagai is a very iterative dude in his own right.
Yeah. The Devilman is pretty notorious for being so light, so I'm very interested to see how they could possibly make the series dark.
Right?
People always say that about him. They're like, this is lighthearted.
This is a fun romp.
It's delightful romp.
Should call it Delight Man.
Delight Man. Heaven Man even. No, Angel Man. So I guess to start, obviously outside of the obvious cliches, a lot of people know you specifically for the virality of your comics, but also I don't know how to, it's hard to articulate. There's the way in which you engage it, and then the reader, where it's wordy, but it does not come off as didactic or instructive for its own sake. It's a definite artist communicating with the reader to like actually get across a cogent thought, which is different than a lot of comics that have a viral component to it, where it's about pressing engagement buttons, a few select phrases that the viewer has a point of reference for that can just be hammered into fucking oblivion. You do not play that game, but instead kind of fuse this manga sensibility with it. Like, when would you say you first got into this, and was it like naturally occurring, or was it a cultivated skill?
So I really first got into it in high school. I had a Tumblr account where I posted like stick figure comics and stuff that were sort of, primitive versions of what I post like on Twitter and Instagram now. But and if you look at my older comics, they don't really resemble, I think, the current like wordier, more in depth style that I have now.
Mm-hmm.
I think that kind of comes from just I'm kind of just a very in my own head kind of guy. Like one of the big things I can do is I'll just take super long walks and kind of just like think about stuff. There's no way to say that that's not like pretentious, but just think about stuff, whatever, kind of have dialogues internally. So when the stuff is written out on the page, it kind of is something that's been sort of, sifted and sort of thought through, for hours and hours to kind of just get those points across. I also think, like you mentioned, I think sort of webcomics in general, not excluding stuff that is kind of narrative, they kind of are just like not good. And yeah, like you said, it's kind of just, oh, this is relatable. This is, there's like a pun or something really shitty. So here, to get this. I think it's kind of, I try to take it almost more as like, you're making maybe a mini comedic essay with visual aids and stuff. I see no reason why people stick to this like 100-year-old format of like, okay, 4 panels and there's one shitty punchline joke in the final panel.
Mm-hmm.
If you're watching a comedy movie or even a comedy skit, there's going to be like several different jokes throughout. So I try to always do that in mine as well, and take a topic that I think is interesting or funny, or I just have a lot of thoughts about, and kind of wring as much humor as I can from that, which usually, results in comics that are kind of a block of text. But I think people don't seem to mind that if you're actually, okay at writing it in a way that is, that flows well, and that you can break up with images and make it easily readable. So that's the long answer, I guess, for that.
No, that's actually an excellent part of talking about process. It's because like, yeah, the work doesn't have to be didactic, but talking about the work, yeah, there can be an instructive component. But the forethought, I think of it because there's a capacity when you're doing that is it's like the phenomena of explaining the fucking joke, and then that deflates all the air out of it, and you're sort of are left between essay trying to get a cogent point across, or tie it to however the reader may feel, whatever biases they have or don't have, etc. Whereas, just to go into it, I kind of have a sort of swatch of some of your good ones. We have one marked September 9th, 2020, checking out some video essays where it breaks your traditional format, where it's kind of a take on the monoculture, but you have a great use of sort of non sequiturs to break up the obvious shit. So we have like an endgame take, a video essay on Steven Universe, Italian BMT, the darkest sandwich ever, epic fail over a horse, and everything wrong with bestiality. 5.4 million views. Oh God. So I'm just gonna come out and say it. One of the other ones that also let me know that, or at least seemed to be implied that, however you were doing this, you were a poster in some capacity, was the funny, heartwarming cop meme where you said where you had one of the commenters say, "I would go Mr. Hands on that pig." I just burst out laughing because I had to like look inward, like, God, I know what Mr. Hands is. I'm going to hell.
Terrifyingly well written line.
I've been not to get too off topic, but I've been getting big into theism lately, and like someone will probably make a good argument that, yeah, this is why you should believe in a god of some form. I'll be like, okay, so I have to square that with, like, I've never seen Mr. Hands to completion, but I know its existence, and I know when I was like, fuck, I have to leave. It's awful. It's the worst thing. But I love that sense of awareness with sort of insidious parts of online monoculture. Do you ever kind of wonder how you get traction in the way you do? Like not in the hack way, but in the sense that, like, people recognize your sense of familiarity. Is it ever something that you think about or incorporate into your process, into your work?
I think it's sort of impossible to a degree once you are starting to get kind of the dopamine rush of seeing all the likes and retweets to not, on some level, kind of think about that consciously. And I definitely have more now that, ever since I sort of set up a Patreon and have sort of my, obviously my income tied to how well my comics do and who sees them and my follower count, all that shit. So definitely, I think first starting out, part of that is just natural because, yeah, I'm on the computer a lot. So is everyone else on Twitter. So if I, make a joke about something you see, if you go on the computer a lot, other people are going to react to it. Or if there's just a very, passionate fan base for something I'm commenting on, they're going to want to sort of respond to that. I don't really ever try to like intentionally just say, oh, I know this will do big, let me do a comic about fucking Homestuck or some shit that I don't really care about. I don't have anything to say, but I know people will react to.
Mm-hmm.
But I think I can sometimes get a sense of like, oh, this will probably be fairly popular because I know this is, I've thought about this specific thing, and I'm sure other people have as well.
Mm-hmm.
That's the immediate sense I get from a lot of the comics I've seen of yours, especially before I was more familiar, the ones that would like get retweeted into my timeline. It was almost always something that was like, oh wow, this dude is absolutely making good jokes out of something we all know to be true. Like the different types of comic store comics one, for instance.
Yeah. Oh, beyond the comic store one, your different types of indie comics one. Back when I had a main, it stabbed me in the chest because it was a perfect encapsulation of of subcultures and like the phrase the death of Tumblr porn being 9/11 for those people. Like, I came up in that scene. I probably wouldn't have gotten published or whatever because of the various scenes I inhabited and being able to come up through them and meet the people I met and the associations I had. And it was just, you fucking get it in a way where it's not like wholly contemptuous. It's like a reasoned, how could you not laugh? And like, I think you even crossed in the normie spaces. Ancient Greek YouTube, masterful. Just not even doing your usual format of like X amount of dialogue between people. Instead, it's two screen caps juxtaposed, which is almost sort of a meta commentary on the how it started, how it's beginning phenomena of Twitter. So it's, I mean, if with regard to that, do you ever have anything in the way of, and again, I only speak about hack in the sense that like it seems to be an enemy for a lot of people trying to move on as time goes on. I noticed this with Ely Valley. A lot of people fucking hate that guy now, even though he's been pretty consistent about what he's done. Do you ever sort of have that in the back of your mind, like X amount of people see the format and they're just going to do the eye roll, sigh, and then performative dance of giving you shit about it?
I'm so wait, I'm not sure I understand the question. Is you asking if am I tired of people's responses to it?
No,
or
no. Do you feel like in terms of a creative arc, do you feel like that's something you'll ever encounter? Not on Ely's terms, but because you're someone that operates out of Twitter, it's sort of a phenomena where, yeah, you do a thing and you fucking nail it. And then I think now people are litigating this in queer scenes and in art scenes. Not necessarily cancellation, but the terms on which they articulate disgust or, I don't know, throwing shit fits about something someone makes. Like, is there anything you ever think of in a significant or not insignificant way?
I don't know. I guess the best I can say is I really don't get. I'm very lucky. I really get almost no negative comments on my stuff, which is really flattering. Obviously, I get a lot of comments that are kind of just standard blasé, like "LOL, this is so true," blah blah blah. Kind of eye rolly, whatever. But whatever. So I have yet to experience anyone really, like the same criticism over again.
Mm-hmm.
I think the closest to that is just people going, too much text, not gonna read, which, like, all right, then go, you can go watch Teletubbies or something. I don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
Like, I consider, like, all right, I'm culling my audience to get people who are smarter or something, or we're just willing to read more. So yeah, I'm not super concerned about that. I think mostly in terms of like moving on creatively, I am sort of trying more to, mix it up. I like to, make stuff that is very, this is a straightforward joke I thought of, it's funny, bing bong boom, whatever, as well as doing stuff that is maybe a little more thoughtful, like some of my more introspective comics, and stuff that is a little more narrative or whatever. I have a lot of ideas that I just don't really have time for right now, especially because I'm, I have to try to focus on whatever is gonna, get my Patreon money higher, unfortunately. But that's just the reality of it. Like, I'd like to dabble in making like a short horror comic. I sort of mentioned that before. I have an idea for other stuff like that. I definitely like to advance creatively and do more stuff that isn't just sort of one-off like gag strips. part of that is I want to improve my art a lot for sure. I feel like what's that Adam Sandler movie where he's like an adult in like grade school?
Billy Madison.
Yeah, that's like me because I learned how to starting to learn how to draw at like 25. So that is something that I think is a little bit of a holding me back from doing that, but also the money thing. But yeah, I mean, in terms of like the negative, the fan reaction, that I really am lucky that I don't have much of that so far.
Yeah, and I don't bring it up as like some sort of like point of contention. I always think about it now because of I don't know how to say it. People have very skewed senses of scrutiny, and since you have such a large following on Twitter and such a viral component on Twitter, it's interesting to sort of see that or hear that rather from you, in that it's largely positive response, even though you kind of go over a range of stuff, like like one of the things is like you talk about like, or rather in one of the more introspective comics, you sort of talk about almost being a closeted come down fan and just having beads of sweat rubbed on
that's a deep
devil,
cut.
Devil character's face. Oh, absolutely.
Secrets out. No. Yeah, I don't know. I try and make a point to there's definitely jokes in the past I've been like, I'm gonna maybe nix this one or change it or something. Because people can get shit for a lot of stuff, anything, even stuff that is totally unsubstantial if it just gets enough steam. Not that I'm like, oh, someone's gonna cancel me, whatever. But I try to ride that line pretty like on the knife's edge between not wanting to censor myself too much and just sort of being edgy and whatever, but also not saying anything insane. Like, I don't know. Yeah, don't say, stuff that is like ultra controversial. If I do, I'll probably say it in like veiled terms. You might see the occasional tweet where it's like, hey, I'm not gonna say what I saw, but some of you guys are fucking crazy. But I don't know. I think I'm just smart about that. Some people don't know how to keep their mouth shut.
Yeah, no, that's the thing.
Well said.
That's the thing. And I'll kick it to some of the other folks here, but like, there's a definite negative component to just solely doing it through Twitter, and that like you have to be a personality that people map certain things onto, as opposed to how most people maybe traditionally thought of as artists in the past, where they aren't necessarily people with insanely coherent sets of connecting beliefs, but that you're supposed to tick X box, which is different than the sort of problematic versus non-problematic dichotomy. Like I have had in my life like many super hyper aggressive tender queer people like my shit, and they act like ISIS all the fucking time, and they need to chill out. But like I watched those really shitty Christian films. Have you ever heard of Assassin 33 AD?
Oh, that movie rules.
Absolute fucking banger. Absolute fucking banger.
Awesome.
Double taps Jesus in the head. Fucking incredible.
I'm Googling it.
Yeah. But
after young geniuses create time travel, they find that radical extremists are using it to send assassins back in time to kill Jesus. Just had to get that log line out of the way.
How can you not want to watch that after? Even if the production values are bad, the buy-in is that someone's gonna double tap Jesus, and it was a former Navy SEAL that went back in time to kill Jesus, and he's like, "On your knees, motherfucker." Amazing.
The lore, the way they incorporate biblical lore into that movie, if you have not have it spoiled for you,
they were considerate about it. They were considerate about it.
God. It was so
Mm.
good.
So good.
I kind of don't want to know more. Yeah, I'll just watch the movie.
I mean, it gets super racist most of the movie. Just a preface here. Just go in with your eyes open. I would not endorse paying money to see this movie. But yeah, Jake, you had some shit you wanted to ask my guy.
Oh, well, I was just going to ask about, you mentioned earlier about stuff being tied to the Patreon, but just like colloquially, like I've really enjoyed seeing a lot of the comics you've done that have crossed over with other communities. So I love fighting games, for instance. You know, I watched the Daigo comic you made go viral through the FGC Twitter stuff, and ditto the Magic stuff. I played competitive Magic for a long time, so I was just kind of wondering what kind of history you have with either of those things, really, card games or fighting games, and if you get, I mean, obviously you'll get people to stay on, but do you find like making comics like that is helpful for this part of your career where you are trying to get the Patreon number to go up a little bit?
Yeah, I think sort of yes and no. I guess so. First part of your question is that I was really into Yu-Gi-Oh and like middle school or whatever,
Right,
same as
yeah.
everyone else. Magic I never got super into, although it's one of those things if I had sort of time and people to play with, I'd love to get more into. But I did always think, yeah, the difference between the two couldn't be more stark. Although I'm showing, I guess, my age, and that after I posted it, everyone's saying, "Oh, the Yu-Gi-Oh card doesn't have 8 paragraphs of text on it about synchro and or whatever."
That's just every card game these days, honestly.
Yeah. So I that was purely just like, wow, their starkness is hilarious here. As for fighting games, I love fighting games, but I don't have, unfortunately, I don't have really the time or the money or the setup to play too many anymore. I was super big into Smash is my main one, which not a real fighting game, but Melee and Ultimate mainly.
Right.
I do watch Street Fighter, obviously. I do Guilty Gear, I think, has like, I mostly like it for just the like all the designs and the aesthetics of everything. It's so bonkers.
Yeah.
So yeah, sort of I guess more of a viewer's enjoyment more so than being a super active player, although I would like to do that more in the future.
I mean, I watch way more fighting games than I play as well, but it's fun to spectate.
Oh yeah. And as for, does it help with the Patreon? I think it depends. Again, for a lot of those that do get sort of mega popular in those groups, I think the more popular it gets, kind of the less people will sort of stick to it a lot of the time.
Okay.
Like with this most recent Magic the Gathering one, I don't remember how many likes on it, like 50,000 or something. And I got like, the amount of new followers I got was like 100, and the amount of new patrons I got was like maybe 1, which is not a good. You compare that to like a ratio. If I post like a really personal comic, it might only get maybe 5,000 likes, but I might get 100 new patrons or 1,000 new whatever.
Right.
Because the people are going to see that and be like, oh wow, this guy's saying something that I like or whatever. My mark is on it more than something that just sort of looks like more meme-y, I guess you could say.
Sure.
So it's a bit of a gamble, although I definitely knew making the Magic one, like, ooh, this is gonna do numbers.
Yeah, it was good stuff.
But yeah, it is what it is.
For sure. Yeah.
So yeah, that's basically the answer.
Oh, that's cool. It's just it's something
Ruben,
that you think about in terms of Twitter is where all these communities intersect. So
right,
Ruben, I was gonna ask, in terms of accuracy, where Beany was talking about those cards, I've never fucking played Yu-Gi-Oh. Like, is he on the money Yu-Gi-Oh wise?
Yeah, it's pretty accurate for how your card would work, but also the criticism that there wasn't enough text on the card is also incredibly accurate. Yu-Gi-Oh cards quickly spiraled into, like, you need a deck that is all cartoon people, and you need to have sacrificial monsters to get to your good monsters, but they're also by name, so it's not just, hey, do you want to get a big dragon out of your deck? You gotta kill a little dragon or send it through time, whatever the fuck it is. It's shit like this card is the young version of an older card, so you need that card by name. So you need a little young green white dragon, and then you need old green white dragon, and then you need a card that specifically summons that one. And I stopped following Yu-Gi-Oh super early on, in the same way that I tried to get away from Magic, after high school, because it's not a good game.
You talk about it like you're leaving Mormonism. It's fucking wild.
I mean, I don't think Ruben's played either of those games in a long time.
It's been a while.
But I think more than anything, like what that comic does is it's just like it gets people thinking about the older cards, because anyways, it's a silly criticism. If someone was like, well, the Magic cards need to be more powerful, no one would relate to this comic. Everyone relates to this because the made-up Magic card named Prudent Dealings looks absolutely like something you would find in your cousin's cardboard box of leftover Magic cards.
The flavor.
And you would read it and you would go, what? What's this supposed to do? I don't get it.
It's a pre-Innistrad card. Let's just fucking say it, okay? It's a pre-Innistrad card.
It's a pre-Innistrad card. I agree, 100%.
This is true.
When I was writing that comic, I said, "Whoa! This card's got to be pre-Innistrad. If there's one thing, it's got to be pre-Innistrad."
If people think this card is post-Innistrad, I've failed.
Yeah, exactly. One joke I didn't really get to include, which I thought was funny, is just the idea that, and again, this has also gone away with the newer Yu-Gi-Oh cards that are all insanely long effect stuff, is the flavor text on a lot of the old Yu-Gi-Oh normal monsters is pretty funny, because it's all stuff like, the card is like, the wandering goblin, and it's like, this goblin wanders across many lands. Who knows what he's looking for? Maybe he'll never find it. Just like pointless, like, okay, cool, I guess.
Tiny meanderings.
Yeah.
I love that shit.
You're have two fucking names. It seems like one of the longest Yu-Gi-Oh card names is Blackluster Soldier Envoy of the Evening Twilight. That's a fucking book at that point.
That's literally the name of a band.
Is that a function of translation from Japanese? Because the Japanese names that are that long, the character is gonna smash it down.
Could
That's
be a
why
lot
Japanese,
shorter.
like Japanese Twitter, they're writing blog posts on there because their character limit is the same as ours, but they can say a lot more with a lot less.
No, it still looks pretty fucking long in Japanese too.
Simply built better.
Yeah. I was about to say.
Beany...
Oh, sorry.
Yes.
No, I was trying to interrupt you.
I wanted to address something that you said many minutes ago about how you started to draw when you were 25 and you feel like you're behind. I have a lot of people, kind of ask me for advice about that stuff just because they've been following my work for a while or whatever, and they want to learn how to draw. And I think what I've seen with people who start drawing when they're adults is that they progress a lot faster than people who start drawing when they're children, because you're not fighting that. Kids have this issue with dexterity and hand-eye coordination because you're trying to develop all of your hand-eye coordination and stuff at the same time as you're trying to draw. So if you're an adult and you already know how to move your fucking limbs, you're going to be way ahead of where you would have been if you're 8, and trying to learn how to draw. So don't worry about it is what I'm saying. You're obviously you can already fucking draw, but if you wanted to keep developing in a different direction or something, you're going to learn a lot faster than you would have if you had started when you were a kid. So try not to worry about it.
No, that's good to hear. That's very definitely very comforting is the word I'm looking for.
It's a cool point because you said you did stuff in high school. Was there like a period where you went away from drawing and then kind of started going back again to do it online in the way you do now?
So the one, no, not real. So the ones I made in high school were just straight up like stick figures. And if you go back, you go back deep enough, my older comics like on Instagram are the same. I think mainly the reason I didn't really draw, I would like doodle in my margins, but my older brother is like a super talented artist. And so I would always sort of be, just feeling really weird about that. We're both fucking I'm 11, he's 14 or something, and we're both drawing Naruto, and his Naruto is like a million times better. I'm just like, fuck this. I quit art, and
There's always someone who could draw the better Naruto.
Yeah. And then like late college, I like sort of started to like dip my toe in again, and it wasn't for another few years where I was like, all right, let me like open up like an anatomy book or something and like try and get a little bit serious.
Yeah, that's the wild thing. A lot of people have done comics. Maybe they were doing things that they didn't realize were subculture stuff. I'm gonna ask you to dig deep to a fucking weird place. Have you ever just stapled together pieces of paper with your stickmen and shit?
Like when I was in like elementary school. Clear
tape is also applicable.
I think I have done that when I was very young.
My father discouraged me because he thought I was getting the wrong messages from stuff, but like I made a little stick figure style comic that was like a Batman analog, and for a Riddler stand-in, it was still the question mark, but I named him the Hooker because the question mark was a hooker, and he's like,
"You got a hook?
Where'd you learn that word?" He's got a hook.
That's fucking great.
And he says he pushes his fingers into his eyes, like, what the
the Riddler. What are some other qualities? What are this man's other qualities? Yes, I know.
He's a man of delightful questions.
He's a man who holds a cane with a hook.
Yeah. I wanted to ask a sort of erroneous question. Because I noticed that you draw a lot of your inspiration. I mean, one of the things you talk about that I love that you talk about is Baki, because Baki is fucking nuts. Are you a Berserk guy at all?
I like Berserk. I definitely do. I think it's super unique. I'm not maybe as gaga as some people are over it. I think a lot of people think it's like one of the top 5 manga of all time. I wouldn't say that, but I love it. It's great.
Like a guy I have a pretty good correspondence with, very friendly guy, Leslie Lee III from the Struggle Session podcast. He is a big Berserk guy. I barely know anything about Berserk, but anytime I go to read about Berserk, so the main character, Guts, based upon everything you know about Berserk, like, why can't people leave that fucking guy alone? What the hell did he do in a previous life to deserve everything that's happened to him? Why is no one nice to Guts in Berserk? In as few words as possible, please.
I think shit sucks for him because it's sort of supposed to be a meditation on the just pure brutality of the dark medieval age. But the more fun answer is that he's got a very strong jawline, and every villain is just an incel who wants to attack him for that.
I mean,
Griffith is jealous of his Chad jaw, I think, is the real answer.
That's a big Virgin Chad energy right there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Guts and Griffith.
I can't. Oh, sorry. Go on.
Griffith is kind of like the virgin, where it's like virginal, but in kind of like an alluring kind of this is weird. Never mind. I take that comment back.
Yeah, no.
We're getting too galaxy brain.
No. Griffith is very much a sort of synthetic virgin Chad synthesis, is the impression I get. Just the androgyny and like too evil. Griffith is too evil. He's too mean. He should be nicer to this. He should be nicer to this fucking Guts guy. Like, every time I look at that Guts guy, he looks like he's about to cry out of his remaining eye, and that shit sucks. I like want that guy to be okay, and I'm tired of people giving him shit. I don't want to speak for everyone in the pod, but like, I would like us to have a firm stance against Griffith. He is fucking bad news. And I'm tired of people enabling this guy. He's a son of a bitch.
All I know about Berserk is that he's the bad guy. That's literally it. That's all I know. So
You know,
Other than Guts is the main guy. I know Guts is the main guy. Griffith is not a good guy.
he's just mad
Yeah,
that Guts can lift shit.
And the lady suffers.
I will happily denounce Griffith, but I will wholly endorse Femto.
Oh yeah.
Whoa. All right.
Yeah, no. I think the biggest contribution that Berserk has made into the comics world is it's the first manga I've seen that references Jar Jar Binks. So that's true. That's not a joke. If you read the latest Berserk chapter,
tell me more.
There's they do a bunch of Star Wars jokes with the little Puck.
What?
Puck is doing like Star Wars like little charades, and he dresses up like Jar Jar Binks. So I don't first manga I've seen that, so I give that man the Tezuka award already.
For real, is he just a big prequels fan? That's incredible.
I guess so.
Kentaro Miura, big fan of the prequels.
He wants to draw the prequel manga. It's coming. Full anime readaptation of the prequel.
Oh, that would own.
There are a few licensed Star Wars mangas, so it's not that far out of the realm of possibility.
Or he wants just to do a book on General Grievous, because that dude fucks.
Yeah, General Grievous is the best prequel character, I think.
For sure.
I'd say with
if we could get
like Gennady Tarkovsky renditions, the filmic is kind of a mixed bag. Like I prefer the animated stuff. You know, Drag Me If You Will.
No one's
Drag Me If You Will. Drag Me If You Will was the sequel to Drag Me to Hell by whoever made that movie.
Sam Raimi. That's a great.
Sam Raimi.
One of the last great Sam Raimi, like just all out horror flicks.
Man, that has a good theme. That was one of the best pieces of music associated.
I really need it. I haven't watched that movie since college, but I just remember renting it at a literal video store with people, watching it on a college like dorm projector, and just having a fucking blast with like how fun we didn't expect that movie to be.
I saw it in theaters, I think. But yeah, that one piece of music that's like up there with March of the Dead. It's super good. I can't remember who the composer is now.
I mean, historically, if it's Sam Raimi, it's either going to be Danny Elfman or
It's not. That's the interesting thing about it. It's somebody else. It's like someone kind of doing an homage to classic Elfman before Elfman became his own dick-sucking Ouroboros. Just like John Williams.
Beany, have you ever seen recent photos of Danny Elfman?
No, but I assume his transformation has been, to put it succinctly, carrot top-like in nature.
Oh my god!
Correct?
Yes,
I knew it.
Extremely accurate.
Oh, I'm fucking Nostradamus. I knew it. The redheads can't resist it. Hey, who's the fucking guy who did Shape of You? He's gonna be looking like that in 10 years. I promise.
Oh, Ed Sheeran? No.
Yeah, it's true. The redheads have a roid guy.
Yeah.
And they if you get to a certain level of redhead fame, you get a card in the mail.
He's gonna change his
number
name
on it
to Ed Sheer Power.
Oh, Jake, as producer, I signed you to the task of throwing it in chat, but that recent photo of him, but he looks like Lou Reed if Lou Reed was like going to dedicate himself to committing hate crimes, and he's got this big tribal arm tattoo. If you want, he looks like someone that has been way too self-conscious about being in a band called Oingo Boingo. It's very wild.
It's the press photo that's here. I'm finding it.
Yeah, he's like wearing a lot of makeup.
Yeah, he's kind of going for an Eddie Izzard thing, maybe.
Oh, fuck.
Here's a picture of
He
Swole.
looks like man, who's that? Who's the astrologer? The documentary just came out about him.
Oh,
he always says the sun off. He says mucho amor. Yeah.
Right.
He looks like that.
It's not Neil deGrasse Tyson. Oh, there you go.
No, it's not Neil deGrasse Tyson, Michelle.
I mean, it could.
We all know that that's his sign off. That's Neil deGrasse Tyson sign off. known Spanish language astrologer Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Yeah.
Mucho amor.
They always do
Italians
like
all
a
his head
sleeve of like
pops.
tribal tattoos to hide all the track marks.
Oh, fuck. And I was about to say, just kind of going through my notes here. One of the few times I have, because like it's weird. It's interesting to learn your point of origin and like when things clicked for you. And in terms of how you feel moving forward with your work, it was interesting to say that you want to do different genre work. How much of your current approach to that do you think would be applicable, and like how do you feel you'd maybe change process to sort of fit the needs for different genre?
I think definitely. I don't know. I'd have to do a whole different sort of approach. I think I've sort of gotten pretty into the flow of how to do this sort of one-off little haha funny comics, and stuff like working on Bad Enders, as rough as I think that is, and I still think that the whole first volume is like, you can tell it's very amateurish, but I did learn a lot, I think, about how to like pace a story, how to do paneling and all that stuff for something that's more narrative. That has the benefit of being funny as well. So for whatever shortcomings there are, I can at least sort of say, well, even if it is, rough around the edges, it's still going to be funny. So I think if I were to, like I said, work on this horror comic, which I wouldn't want to make a comedy, I would have to make sure to just really just refine my writing and refine my artistic skills, which I try to do, constantly. Every opportunity to write a comic, even if it's short, and to draw a comic, I try to take to improve my skills. But ultimately, I don't even know. It could be that I'm mostly cut out for just doing shorter stuff. I think even working on like Bad Enders 2 or other long, I've done some short stories, and some are like long short stories, and those wear down on me. So I might be ultimately sticking to shorter form stuff. But I guess I'll figure it out as I go. Is the main answer.
I will kick it to Eliza. I just less a question, but I've been learning while scripting a horror comic myself that you have to sort of move your schema of the things that make you into that, instead of writing with regard to expectation. So you can kind of incorporate your voice into that. One of the hilarious things about all of what I had gotten from Bad Enders was your use of non sequitur, not only in writing but in art, where it breaks up form. For example, you'll have hyper detailed versions of your characters, but then they become fucked up little guys that are armless and look like Lego Duplo versions of them, or maybe a step removed from being emojis in terms of their expressions. Anytime a character of yours puts their hand on their own face, you have a grasp on how people relate to sort of getting stupidity across in a joke visually, and expressions on the face, that I find fucking fascinating.
I have a question. What is the origin of Beany Tuesday, the name?
Aha. So I basically, when I first started posting on Twitter, I didn't put any thought into it. Definitely, if I was thinking I would get more than like 1,000 followers, I would have chosen something a little more badass. But so it's just a Steam name I used. But the origin of that Steam name is one of my biggest comedy influences of all time, and I think if you go back and look at these, you can find this, is the podcast Podtoid. That's Destructoid's video game podcast. I had
Okay.
Jim Sterling, I think, is the most famous person on that, as well as Jonathan Holmes.
Okay.
And they had a recurring segment called Film Pitches for Willem Dafoe, where they would make up these really weird sort of combining like horror and like sexual. It can't be explained. Go on YouTube, Film Pitches for Willem Dafoe. This is for the listeners. Check them out. And there's one film pitch called "I'll Photograph Your Ass," and in that film pitch, Willem Dafoe is playing an evil journalist named Beany Tuesday.
Oh my God, there it is.
So
that's a great deep cut.
Yeah. When I was in college, I grabbed that name, made it my Steam name, and it stuck ever since.
That's great. So it was sort of an online name that kind of evolved into your nom de gore or whatever you want to call it.
Yes.
Is there any big reason behind that decision? Just the anonymity of it. Mostly, is it just to have a chiller kind of private life?
Yeah, kind of. I think early on there was a period of time where I was posting stuff like political stuff, and it kept getting reposted into these insane like Instagram. My Instagram, I love all my Twitter followers. My Instagram followers are psychos. They migrate from reposts that are posted to like shit called like epic Pepe Politifash me, or just like shit that is wild.
Mm-hmm.
So seeing a bunch of like frog avatar people migrate all at once kind of gave me like the heebie-jeebies. Now years on, I'm not actually like scared someone's gonna like show up to my house and murder me or anything, but it has become more of just something where I don't know, it feels like a little more freeing to be able to kind of speak my mind and not like I don't know, have people just look at photos of my face. It is a big part, just sort of self-consciousness, I think.
I like it. I mean, I miss the days on the internet where everyone kind of was a different name and stuff like that. So I think it's cool to be using it in the way that you are.
Yeah. I think eventually, if I were at a point where I decided I needed to, or I wanted to start like doing conventions, or I had to, I don't know, be a public facing person, I might, that's just something that I would just have to do. But I think at the moment, I'm not someone who has any interest in being like, oh, here's my selfie. Not that there's anything wrong with that if you do like that.
Right.
If someone said anything negative, I would just like die instantly. So I cannot do that.
That's fair.
Absolutely. And I guess it's weird. Simon Hanselman had sort of related a similar thing. Like he had like very goofy fucking Instagram followers where obviously they seem much differently aligned, and sometimes there could be a sort of sense of guilt by association in various associations that don't really need to be litigated at length. But in terms of that, it was kind of interesting to see the sort of very broad reader base you have based on your Twitter. It's not really something you could map to one sort of political alignment, which I think a lot of people do nowadays because people seem much more captured. Do you feel like as things kind of calm down politically, because it seems like it's moving to that point, that will be a thing that people think about less in terms of their own work and then who consumes it?
So I guess two things. I think first of all, I do have a fairly diverse, I think, following in some respects. I think definitely all my followers lean pretty heavily to the left.
Mm-hmm.
Just because that's sort of unavoidable in my comics. I'm not making any attempt to like not, be soft on the Democrats or whatever. But in terms of people not really thinking about politics, I think, at least for me, I think there's definitely a sense that there's so much work, so much content now that it tries to be explicitly political with mixed degrees of success. You can't like, throw a rock without hitting like a socialist podcast these days. Yeah. And only like 1.1% of them are any good. So it feels like it feels like a lot of the time you kind of have to check yourself, and or at least what I do is I start checking myself, like, am I saying anything that is remotely interesting here, or that anyone hasn't said before much better? Because I think I'm reasonably smart. I'm not like a political analyst or anything, though.
Yeah.
And if I'm not, well, then it has to be just very uniquely funny, you know.
Oh yeah, but I don't say it to have it, because if I bring up people being captured by the political moment, I also think of the way you sort of jump over a lot of trends. I'm thinking of Joe Biden like trying to put wafts of Hatsune Miku's holograms hair in his mouth, and nodding very serenely. That's a fucking amazing bit.
It was Luca Megarine, first of all.
Oh,
if it was Miku, we would be in a second world war. I mean, a third world war. My
okay,
bad.
duly noted.
But no, just anyways. Yeah, no, I think that was more just trying to be absurd and kind of play off Joe Biden being a weirdo creep pervert guy. More so than being like, this will fucking take him down.
Got his ass.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the strip right now.
In terms of physical publishing, has that been anything you've looked at or considered in any serious capacity? Or have you put out any zines?
I have not yet. I've had a few people ask. I think I kind of have a lot of things going on right now. I think once I finish Bad Enders 2, maybe I would compile them into like one big thing, but the size of the pages and everything is all fucked up, and I didn't pay any mind to like getting the right DPI or whatever when I was starting out, so I don't know if that would work super well. But I am right now. There's a I don't know how much I can say about this, but I'm working with someone, not like a professional, whatever, just a guy I know, sort of, who's putting together a little comics anthology with a couple different sort of indie online comics creators. So I'll have an original comic that's just going to be a few pages in that. So if anyone out there's a diehard fan in a couple months,
hey,
stay
tuned for.
That's a good exclusive.
Yeah, exclusive. Yeah, no, anthologies. That's how I got in the game. Anthologies whip ass. I love self-contained stories, and also editorial sort of having a tastemaker sense associated with it, where there's a clear, cohesive vision. That's really cool to hear.
Agreed. Yeah. Again, I hope I haven't upset the person by saying that, but I think it should be fine.
This won't come out for a minute too, so you should be all right. I wanted to ask, when you're moving into the longer form stuff, because you have the itch page, how else have you considered the move from primarily doing your comics published via like Instagram and Twitch or Twitter, I mean, to like a medium that's a little more suited to a bigger story, like your Bad Enders issues?
Sorry, I totally blanked. It was just, what are my thoughts on switching?
Well, it's like, did you turn to itch because that's the best sort of way for you to put that stuff out?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I think pretty much when I finished Bad Enders 1, I just wanted a way to like I put it on Imgur, but then I knew that was kind of not the ideal method of doing it. So I was like, all right, this is supposed to be read as a PDF. I literally just like asked around, hey, what's the best place to put this? Like Itch.io, fucking comics, I don't know. And I just threw it up on Itch.io, and I was like, all right, here's that. Pay what you want. I don't really care. And then I also wrote a couple short stories that I thought fit better on there. And, I'm not going to spam people's Twitter with like full pages of text. So it's basically just anything that I think you don't want clogging up your feed. We'll just go on there. But I tend to not, use it all that much.
Right on. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
For people that might have seen your stuff on Instagram or Twitter and hadn't looked too closely at the other stuff that's linked, I guess that is just like digitally one of the better platforms you can be on now to put that stuff out.
Ruben, do you have a thought? I see a finger pointing.
I just had a little follow up here, Beans.
Okay.
I think back in January, it looks like your heating was fucked up and you had to sleep in a sleeping bag.
Yes.
Has the heating been fixed?
So the heating Short answer is no. That's but the long answer is in fact my roommates confronted me about this just tonight. Apparently it's not normal to sleep in a sleeping bag. If you're an adult who lives in a house, but I think it's comfortable. I think it keeps you extra warm, and you can brag to girls that you're like Finn from Adventure Time, and they go, "Oh, I love Adventure Time." But yeah, no, the heating still sucks, and it's still very cold, and I have to wear a down jacket in my room. But
So is the
yeah.
sleeping bag because you already had it for camping, or did you get a sleeping bag because you were like, it's time to innovate on blankets, and a sleeping bag and a bed is pretty choice?
I did. Oh yeah, thank you. I did already have it, and I just needed some extra warmth. But it's very nice. Here's a little tip for all you baggers out there, all the SB fans.
Let's get into
The POB, people of bed.
Yeah. No, let's get into the lifestyle. Yeah.
All right, check this out. I'm starting my whole new subreddit r/baggers just for sleeping bags.
Wait. What's your setup? Is this a mummy style bag? Do you just go standard rectangle? Do you get the extra tall, extra large rectangle?
No, I go mummy style. Now here's why you got to go mummy style, because you zip up all, if extra cold night, zip it up all the way, put the little hood thing over your head, and here's where it gets choice. Get your iPhone out, download whatever white noise app you like, put it in the hood with you, and it'll jump off the insides of the hood, and it'll increase the acoustics, so it will actually feel like you're in the cabin of an airplane or whatever, under the sea, whatever the hell you want it to be. And you'll feel extra snuggly, and it's great.
I'm on the other end of the bags. I don't like mummy style bags because it gets in on my legs, and then I get like a weird feeling about that. I think I have some minor claustrophobia issues. I don't like when you get stuck in a shirt and you can't get your arm out because you fucked up trying to take your arm out, and then you're fucking. I get really freaked out when I did that as a kid, and then that kind of spiraled from there.
Did you get lost in your shirt a little too long one day?
It was just I was in my fucking shirt with my elbow coming in for like 10 minutes, and I was just screaming at that point, telling someone else to get me out of this fucking shirt because I couldn't figure it out anymore.
This explains a lot.
So I go full rectangle bag. I'm a tall boy, so I gotta get a little. I get like largest one they got inside there. Yeah, big on bags. Is that a Coleman or what kind of bag you got?
Oh shit! I actually don't know what the brand is. It was I got it specifically for a trip to Myanmar and to sleep in the woods. Kind of a long story. So it was like one of those ultra low temperature bags. So it's actually pretty nice. Yeah. And definitely not something that you would think would just be used in like a really shitty apartment, instead of like, by some sponsored mountain climber or whatever.
Right.
But
mummies aren't cheap. The cheapest bags usually don't like do summer mummy sleeping bags.
Exactly. A good rectangle. It's what we call a starter bag. If you're more of a high level bagger, you gotta go mummy. But it's not for everybody.
Yeah.
But I also supplement my rectangle bag, just to get into it more, is that I also have a camping blanket. So it's sleeping bag material, but it's a small blanket because it's the same technique I simulate in bed. I don't sleeping bag in bed typically. Sometimes I'll sleep bag in the living room. I just like to sleep on the floor sometimes. But in bed, I use 2 blankets, and then one is a pillow that also is a hood for my head, so that there's like a cross section, so heat doesn't escape from my feet, but it's more focused on my torso. So that's simulated sleeping bag where I have a sleeping blanket that is a pillow that I also put over my head and then cover my face with the blanket while I'm in the sleeping bag. I just can't. I got a lot of heat, body heat regulation issues when sleeping and stuff. So it's a whole thing. It's very specific. But anyway, I just wanted to follow up on that. I want to check in there.
That's an impressive setup you have for sure.
Do you is this, I mean, obviously you had the sleeping bag anyway and you enjoy being in the bag. Is this like a camping thing at all, or is it more just like the comfiness of it?
I haven't gone camping in a while, although I do enjoy camping now and then. But yeah, no, it's mostly, honestly, it's just utilitarian for the warmth mostly.
That makes sense in your situation.
Yeah. I've got the bag plus 2 different comforters, and I feel like it comes to a point where if you just have like 6 comforters, it's gonna feel like a big giant is lightly stepping on you. So maybe you're into that. I'm not. So I go with the bag, and so far no reason to switch. I think if I get into like a fresh long-term relationship, there might be an issue with the bag, there being only one bag.
I saw your comic about that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But for now, it's the ultimate bachelor's sleeping scenario, so I have no reason to give it up.
It also seems like an easy transition. You could they got double bags, couple-sized bags, or you could just have 2 bags that could zip together and get cross-zip compatibility.
I don't like
So
I'm sorry to interrupt, but I don't like the fucking implications of a double-sized bag. That seems like 2 people being buried inside the same coffin, and I don't fucking like that.
It just shares.
I don't trust
body,
like that.
It shares body heat, and because the typical method was that you could always zip 2 rectangular bags together, but then you're like losing heat on the zipper. Someone's touching the zipper more than the other person. So when you do a full wrap, just an extra wide bag that zips on one side there, it's just easier.
Yeah.
I feel
Also,
like
if you're just a big person, if you're just a big guy and you want to go camping, you need a big bag, right?
You need a big bag.
Actually, that's
if you
how
want
to
like
save
a queen
from
size bed amount of
hypothermia in
space.
the woods. You got to get the hypothermia victim and the dry person. Everybody takes off their clothes and you both get into a sleeping bag together. You can save somebody's life that way. The serious
That's
business.
value.
Yeah, write that down.
That's just value.
Damn.
Yeah. Well, they always do recommend that, and there's because people have like, I guess, like taboos or whatever, but like survival situation, it's like, no, you have to be rubbing them or just skin to skin contact and as dry as humanly possible so you don't fucking die. But
I'd recommend if you can have the forethought, you should get a bivy. This is just in general for anyone. Just to get a bivy, it's like an emergency. It's like emergency blankets that suck, the big mylar foil-looking metallic blankets.
Mhm.
Like a bivy is like that. It's pre-sleeping bagged, and they also sell
Heat
ones
trap.
that are meant to go on top of sleeping bags. So even though you'll just be like awash in sweat and it'll just be a puddle in the morning, you still won't die in Arctic temperatures. So they're nice to
Disgusting.
throw in your car if you ever have any
Mhm.
concerns with that.
Yeah, it
Like
makes sense.
What do they refer to as space
Oh, yeah.
blankets? Yeah.
It's what people have to do in Arizona, or their cars turn into death traps from the sun.
Oh,
No,
you're talking about
just-
covering the
just-
window? So it
Yeah,
doesn't
yeah.
heat up?
It's 2 uses for a sleeping bag. You can put it on top of your car as a tarp when it's 100 degrees, and then not die at night. So it's good double use. Sorry, big sleeping bag aside there. That took longer than I thought.
At this point,
Listen, he's sleeping in a sleeping bag. It's good. It's good to cover it.
It's good chat. I don't usually get to have good sleeping bag chat. If another,
Yeah, were your roommates, were they confrontational about this, or were they just like checking in about you?
they were so fucking grossed out. I live with like 3 girls and like 1 kind of metrosexual dude.
Are you washing the bag?
I wash it occasionally. I won't say how
Yeah.
often.
Okay.
not a great
Listen,
start. Not a
listen,
great start.
Listen, the bag is getting washed. The
It's
bag is
getting
getting washed.
When I saw the sleeping bag comic, I was like, oh, girls don't like that. I don't like that. Yeah. So I could, if I were your roommate, I would definitely have been in that little intervention group. Like, are you okay? Do you need
How would your
help?
roommates
Should we
feel
call your
if you
mom?
So look, listen. Yeah, your roommates come in. They talk hot shit about it. A date from last week is also with them. They're all confronting you. It's a surprise intervention. You're ambushed. You're back into a corner. But you reach into your closet. The double sleeping bag comes out. How much of
Yeah.
a solve would that be when you have the giant extra wide double sleeping bag for a couple? And you're like, listen, at
Just
any
keep
moment you can
zipping
unzip
in
this.
more sleeping bags to the pocket until it gets big enough that it's acceptable to them. Yeah.
You put 5 people into a sleeping bag. If you unzip it, it's just
Mhm.
like a big blanket. It's a blanket with a zipper. And they're just missing the potential of that and how water resistant it is.
I'll definitely show them this podcast, and if maybe they can learn some truths. You get prove them wrong, and if it, Eliza, if it gives you any comfort, when I do have women over, I do tuck the sleeping bag out of sight, so they don't have to know how gross I am.
Mhm.
I think in terms of the double,
So wait,
think,
no, let me stop you there, because if
Okay.
the sleeping bag is tucked out of sight, do you have like a decoy blanket that you put on the bed?
Yes, I
Hell
do have
yes.
two other.
He makes a
two other
choice to sleep in a
comforting-
sleeping bag.
Yeah, no, I hide it. I carefully hide it out of sight so no one knows.
A
And I do have a
take-
regular looking bed. I do also, and I know this isn't adding points, I also do not have a bed frame. So it is just on the floor.
on the floor with a mattress.
Mattress on the floor.
That's gonna get wet. That's not good.
It's gonna get wet for what?
Beds need to have the bottom side has to aerate. That's why you have a box spring with a rail on it. You got to have some space
Yeah.
under there.
That's
I didn't
true.
know that.
That's why.
We're helping.
Okay,
We're
this
helping
is shit.
every day.
I don't know
But
why
it takes
a
men
while.
don't know this shit. Like they have to move in
takes a
with
while.
somebody and then get
Okay.
told, like, yeah, you got to wash your sheets every 2 weeks. Yeah, you got to put your bed on a bed frame or you're gonna get mold in it. Yes, you should not sleep in a sleeping bag. I don't know why. Like most men
Wait,
are
hold on.
raised
Oh shit.
by a mom, so they just don't pick this stuff up. I don't know what the problem is there, but there's some sort of disconnect. And
So if you
about the adventure.
if you're in a sleeping bag though, you're keeping away your fluids from the bed. The bed is now secure of your fluids and doesn't need a box spring because it's no
not
longer
all sleeping
exposed.
bags are waterproof though.
Yeah. Beanie's kind of life hacking it with the mattress on the floor and
All right, we have to know, Beanie, when you
sleeping
wake up,
bag
is the
combo.
sleeping bag ever kind of moist?
I mean, it's usually so cold I don't really sweat. There have been times when the temperature raises dramatically overnight, where it is kind of like a merge. It's like when Neo comes out of the Matrix.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
That's you waking up.
Yeah, yeah, it's like pretty much exactly like that. So here's what I'll do. I'm not going to get a bed frame. I'm not going to stop sleeping in the sleeping bag, but I will wash the sleeping bag soon-ish, and I might wash my sheets too.
We
So
like
if there are any single ladies listening to this podcast, that's my gift to you.
Folks, you heard it here first. A day of exclusives. We've got
It's on-
anthologies. We've got amniotic fluid.
Recording
got
on
it all.
Valentine's Day.
This is Valentine's Day. Pure Valentine's
Oh, yeah.
Day.
You know,
Wink,
the other
wink.
thing with the sleeping bag, and you should just when you get out of bed, just like unzip it, or if it's mummy style, obviously you could just like turn it inside out, let it dry out, and before you get back into it, because the dust mites and the mold, they get into the moisture that you you respirate out or just exude through your skin all night. That goes for everybody actually. If you're a make your bed every day kind of person, which I'm not, I have treatment resistant depression. Just like pull the sheet back, the blanket back, let it air out a little bit. It cuts down on the dust mites and shit.
Absolutely.
Every time I fluff my stuff up in my room, I get very concerned about the amount of dust that accumulates in my carpeted bedroom.
New consideration.
bad.
The mattress is already a wash. Would you consider we advance the camping tech in your in-home sleeping setup? We could do either an inflatable mattress that is like under 6 inches in width. We could do sleeping pads. Those are foam insulated pads that you usually use for sleeping on when you're in a tent. So you could tuck that away and just be like, check out my bed, and you throw out a couple pads on the ground. They could be self-inflating as well. That would just be fun to watch. Give someone you have over some updates. You have dinner out, and you're like, I believe the mattresses would be done self-inflating in the next 6 hours, and we can get into bed in 2 matching sleeping bags.
You could take turns
I could
blowing
also-
it up. It would be romantic. Just pass it back and forth, Here, your turn. You get real
This character
lightheaded.
building.
The heavy breathing and the lightheadedness, that's hot.
Is it better to have the inflation montage, or should they just be ready and deployed so that it's what is it? It's a surprise either way. But
think
is
you
it
gotta
better
top
that
it
someone sees?
You got to top it up, even if it's out already, because those things, they deflate. Like the temperature changes during the day, they get bigger, they get smaller.
Yeah.
You don't want to sit your lady friend on a flaccid mattress. That's not cool. Yeah, she's gonna judge you for that.
What you got to do is blow it up 80% of the way before they get there.
So wait,
And
so Beans, are
then
you on
when you
board?
get in the room, you go, "Oh, yeah, it's a little. You know what? We should make this a little better." And that makes it look like you consider it, like you're going out of your way to make it a little bouncier.
You touch it, you
That's a good
test
point.
it, and you're like, "How's that feel? Is that nice?"
Yeah, just the
Yeah.
techniques.
Can I
Beans,
blow it up for
what are
you,
your
my
considerations?
lady? Also, if she's actually sitting on the mattress while you're inflating it, you can really show off your masculine energies. Like if you can lift her with just
And
your
your lung
lungs,
capacity.
yeah, it's sexy. She's gonna feel like real small and protected because you can lift her, you can float her on your powerful breath.
She'll smell your dried spit on the fucking valve.
Yeah, that's
Wow.
pheromones.
So,
baby.
anyways,
he says that. He says that. It totally comes across. If I try to say something deadpan, I sound like a sociopath. I'm gonna be in my feelings the rest of the night. Oh, God.
Oh yeah,
Fuck me.
I'm gonna blow up this mattress for you. We're gonna go to sleep. You're gonna wake up at 3 after going to the bathroom, and you're gonna have to reinflate this mattress slightly to
Oh
get back.
dear God.
I mean,
It's gonna taste
speaking
like
of mold, I was sleeping on an air mattress for a while, and I changed the sheets one time, and there was mold under there because it's just rubber, right? Like it just kind of collects that moisture, and yeah, it was pretty
That's
bad.
where the rubber met the road.
Yeah,
sure.
exactly, literally. Has anyone ever
It's all
filled up
started
an
with a
air
sleep
mattress with water? Like, I've always wanted to try that.
I
See
just
how it
assume it
goes.
doesn't have the tolerances for water. You probably get like a good hour out of it, I bet.
I was about to say it seems like it would be difficult to get the water in, but if you had a system, cheap waterbed maybe. I used to be fascinated by waterbeds. Fascinated when I was a kid. For some reason, seeing the Goofy movie at a certain age made me believe that they were some level of like when you get to adulthood, you would just come to a point in your life where you had to make a choice to get a waterbed or not. Yeah, I don't think they're a thing anymore, but
No, they're still out there. I was looking at pricing a bit ago. Kind of cheap. Let me double check actually for y'all.
I had
Beany, have you considered a waterbed?
Had a waterbed when I was a kid. It was really weird.
I was into it.
Weird
I thought it
thing.
was pretty good, but I never knew the amount of maintenance and setup and potential fail points on a waterbed.
Mhm.
I didn't know. The first thing someone should have told me was there's a heating element
Ruben,
because the fucking water will get so cold you'll freeze to death in your fucking sleep.
Ruben.
The insulation's terrible.
Sorry about that, BD. Have you ever?
Ruben, you want to let our guest talk?
He's
You want to let our guest talk?
He's going beast mode on the waterbed.
He
Let
really
the man
is.
cook.
Hey, listen.
I had a friend
All
who was a
right,
kid
all
where
right.
he fucking
You
woke
wouldn't-
up and it sprung a leak overnight and they woke up in a pool of fucking water and they woke up they just said, "What the fuck?" He run into the room and they're drowning.
Yeah, just
You wouldn't drown from that much water.
But
Well, if you're
it had
asleep.
like a walling on it and they were like bathtubed. They like woke up and they're like, "Where the fuck?" They were freaked out.
Very Neo-esque.
Kidneys are gone. It's fucked up.
Listen, I just wanted to check in with you, Beany.
Beany,
Beany, are you gonna get a new fucking bed or not? We need to know. I asked you 20 minutes ago.
All right, the question was, do I have
What
it?
do we
All
have
right, so
to
two
get
answers.
you to go home with a waterbed today? Is really what we're.
You'd probably have to. I don't know. I feel like I'm so accident prone and kind of. I just like drop sharp stuff around. I don't know. That doesn't seem like my downstairs neighbor would enjoy that. Plus, it seems like that would just suck. So I'm gonna say no to the waterbed, unless I get like really filthy rich, balling out, and then I can just like not
Waste
care about that. Yeah, well, if I want to just waste money.
Beanie, listen. I have a proposition.
Okay.
Waterbeds are about $3,000 right now for like a modern one. It's a little expensive. But if it meant if you slept in a waterbed the rest of your life, it would guarantee that you die in a mummy sleeping bag of drowning in a waterbed. Would you get it as long as that's the only way you would die and nothing else bad would happen to you?
A guaranteed.
It's a guarantee.
Yeah,
death?
guaranteed death. Well, then in that case, I would buy the waterbed and then just sleep somewhere else. And I would like live forever.
You have to sleep in the waterbed. You have to sleep in the waterbed or you can't sleep.
Then no, I think if someone said, "Here, buy this bed, and I'll guarantee you die in your sleep," I
You'll
would
be
probably
old.
not
You'll be old.
sleep.
It'll just be it'll be peaceful and very lacking in oxygen.
I
But
think I'm gonna say pass on that option. Unfortunately,
I'm with you, Beanie. Every time I sleep in a waterbed, I just get headaches in the morning.
What do
I
you
don't know
mean
what that's
every
about.
time?
That's probably the most.
Yeah,
of-
wait,
Sleep in a
wait.
waterbed.
Pause. How many times have you slept in a waterbed?
Is this like a regular thing for you?
you get to one every
6
month.
times in my life.
Okay.
Wow.
I don't want to
6
relate.
more times.
I don't.
6 more times than me.
I don't want to relate the circumstances, but
That's fair.
I've been to a waterbed or two. I'm a person of waterbed experience.
And is a headache all 6 times?
Yeah, I think it's just nausea or something, but that's neither here nor there.
That's
You get
interesting.
seasick from sleeping in a waterbed? Holy shit.
Yeah, what a fucking dipshit.
Yeah, no. If there's one thing to take away from this whole experience today is 2 things. I seriously don't think I would have had that brain frazzle earlier. But like I am a few things. I am incredibly fucking easy to bully. I have some intellectual capacity, but I'm functionally stupid in pretty much every other way. And I'm incredibly physically strong, but like in terms of inflicting harm, super weak. If my shin nicks anything, my day's done. I'm such a pussy. Like in the most clinical sense of the phrase, someone being a pussy. I'm the biggest one.
Sensitive skin.
Oh, easily. In terms of so given all of these thoughts on bedding materials, etc., to kind of, I don't know, relate it back to some of your work. I was thinking about like influences and what informs your work, not just nailed to specific people, Beanie, but in terms of what you incorporate into your work based on whatever influences, be it media, maybe philosophical or whatever. You're a very literate guy, which I find fascinating as it relates to your sense of humor and then non sequitur. As soon as you had mentioned Billy Madison, your non sequitur on the maturity comic, I immediately thought of that SNL writer that makes an appearance in Billy Madison, where he says, "In no part of that rambling, incoherent mess of blah, 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 we've all become dumber." I wonder, in terms of high art versus low art, like which wins out for you in your influences?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, I think I think in terms of presentation, honestly, a good amount is just low art. It's sort of hard to say. I think if in terms of the one-off sort of comics, I really don't think there's that many influences I have in terms of actual other web comics. Because, like I said, I think most of them are just really not that good. But in terms of kind of the style, to the extent that I have any, it is really, and I'm gonna get like, this is so I hate myself for admitting this because I feel like this kind of goes against how I want to label myself, but a lot of like internet, like sort of meme-ish content has come to influence it, not in terms of like, oh, here's a screen cap of Seinfeld and it's like that feel when this happens, blah, blah, blah. But like going on 4chan and finding these like insane, like super in-depth screeds and like image caps and like the Virgin versus Chad style of sort of format. There's that sort of the weird, like it's kind of the stuff that is like the writing that makes you think like this wasn't written to be posted on some meme aggregator. It's some weird guy on 4chan who's really passionate about something, you know?
Right.
There's an old a really funny piece of writing called I forget what is it called? It's Monster Rancher Reviews, which is some guy reviewing CDs using the Monster Rancher game, and he reviews it. He uses it. He uses it to review a Death Grips album by putting
That's
the CD
incredible.
in and seeing the stats it generates, and other just weird bits of kind of internet writing sort of inform the style a little bit. I think I was a philosophy major in college, a philosophy and zoology double major, and I was a big fan of writing philosophical essays. And I honestly think that kind of writing style has influenced my ability to kind of write in a clear and concise way.
That makes a lot of sense to me. Just having read some of your longer, like, paragraphy comics and stuff, I could see that.
Yeah, I definitely
They're very well written, is to say.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
So I think those two, in terms of form, it is kind of very low art mixed with, I think, a sensibility that is not trying to dumb itself down at all. And in terms of the actual comedy style, the big influences for me comedically are fuck stand-up comedy. Don't give a shit about stand-up comedy. Comics, there's not that many funny comics I can think of. I think Hark of Vagrants, Kate Beaton's comic is really
Absolutely.
good.
Mhm.
Classic webcomic.
Classic.
Yep.
Perry Bible Fellowship, everyone loves that.
I love have that hardcover now. Yeah.
But the big otherwise, like I said, Podtoid, super influential on my sense of humor. I'm a big fan of Mega 64, the Mega 64 podcast as well. Those guys are very funny. I think I picked up a lot of sort of turns of phrase from those guys. But otherwise, I don't know. I think a lot of the times humor, a sense of humor, is something you kind of just develop from your like how you interact socially with people. So I think, not to like toot my own horn, but I think once you are I don't know, so much stuff that tries to be funny is just really painfully unfunny. And so I because of that, I don't have like the largest swaths of influences. Eric Andre is great too, but I don't want to sit here and like name random stuff. I think the stuff I mentioned is the biggest influences that you would be able to see in my work.
Yeah, that's the thing. Where I mentioned like high art versus low art or whatever is, I had a conversation recently with a personal friend where she does like very super ornate art and very she's able to knock it out relatively fast compared to some of her peers, but it was something she came to at like 15 or 20 years. And like the things that influence her, there are some classical and neoclassical artists that have like penchants for getting across horror or this or that, but like also she also just loves dumb shit like Looney Tunes or fucking regular old shonen manga. And it's sort of interesting how much is intellectualized and goes into the work versus that sort of raw bit of the brain, that id that gets it across. And so the juxtaposition of the inward thinking of some of your more personal works that don't necessarily have a joke in it versus say, the stuff that's easily memeable. It's interesting that you cite 4chan ephemera and guys super being into specific things like the music board or etc., or personal interest or DIY crap they do. And I think as time goes on, do you always feel that will be a part of your work? Do you feel like it's sort of your lane or this or that? Because we were talking about your horror premises earlier, in terms of your output. do you feel it'll always be that way, or is it? It's not like gun to your head, like
Right.
you know what I mean. But
Yeah. I think I don't know. I don't again. I don't really peruse the same sort of internet channels I used to sort of find all that weird 4chan ephemera. I don't really go on Reddit. I occasionally go on 4chan, but I'm not using it like heavily. I'm just sort of occasionally browsing like fashion boards or whatever. So I think I don't know. I think stuff. I've sort of migrated over more to Twitter a little bit, which has its own sort of bizarre subcultural components, which I think don't have quite the same level of kind of apocrypha as like. I hope I'm using that word right. I have no idea.
You absolutely are. Eliza is a goon.
4chan is a little bit more like these are sort of the bugs that dwell under rocks of kind of the internet, and you get some weird stuff from that for sure. But I think hopefully I'd like to. My big worry isn't so much like, am I going to maintain my influence of kind of like 4chan, whatever, is really just trying to maintain that same kind of creative spark behind stuff, the same sort of passion. Because if you have an idea that has the right sort of energy behind it, it pretty much writes itself, I think. So I really want to just making sure I can maintain that and not get sort of burned out. I think everyone can name an artist or a musician or whoever who has, a few really incredible pieces of work, and other ones that, maybe are similar superficially, but just the energy isn't there. So I want that to never happen to me if I can avoid it. And I don't really know how you do that aside from just sort of trying to keep fresh. But otherwise, I would definitely like to move a little bit more towards making stuff that can be seen, not necessarily as high art per se, because who knows what that even really means.
Exactly.
But I wouldn't. I don't want to go down in history as just the guy who did stuff that you kind of chuckle at and go, oh, that's good. All right, let me move on. The sort of YouTube equivalent of, or the comic equivalent of like a video of like a man falling down or whatever. I think there's a lot of great stuff that is really funny, but really good, but has kind of a not even necessarily emotional, but kind of has a leaves an influence on you.
There's a resonance.
Yeah. So I think you look at like random example like Jordan Peele has Key and Peele. I think that's decently funny, whatever. And then he also made Get Out, which I think is going to have a much longer lasting sort of cultural impact, and it's also a very funny movie. So not saying that's like a 1-to-1 comparison, but I'm always trying to evolve as an artist for sure.
It does make sense, that level of moving from comedy into something else, but not actually moving away from comedy, I guess.
Yeah, that was sort of like my rationale. We'd had previous guests on. What was it? Colin Space Twinks had kind of talked about being online as a process and sort of that, and we spoke to Carta Monier about sort of doing publishing and her sort of creative arc. And I think what's interesting is how a lot of the sort of intersecting methods that kind of come across in your work sort of extrapolate like over X amount of time. I think the most exciting thing about your work is imagining the permutations like 5 years from now, because you have they're so heady but not inaccessible, which is so fucking weird. Because my first thought, and I mean you've acknowledged it several times, is wall of text, not going to read. But like there's so much forethought, and you came by these conclusions in earnest that it's funny, and it's also just like not exasperating, but you're just like, Christ, I've had that moment where I've been like frozen in place for 5 minutes or upwards of that amount of time, just considering the conclusions that led me to the point I'm at, which I think is very hard to grasp nowadays, especially with the nature of online being like immediate. You don't have any sense of time or the past. And it's interesting to see something that sort of bucks that sensibility and is like, this is me in the moment, or this is the idea I want you, the viewer, the reader, to stick with in the moment, to convey a cogent idea, and it's very exciting shit. Like, not to constantly heap praise, but it's
keep it coming, baby.
no okay, multiple award nominated artist, co-signed
Yes.
Twitter guy who is good at tweet, and also has you've never incorporated full nudity into your comics, which is like massive turn off for me, but like, yo, aside from no, but yeah, no,
you're one of the rare non-porn things that Michelle.
Folks, I can't state this enough. No raw dogging in his works.
Well, just I've made I don't know if I've said this pledge publicly, but I will absolutely pivot to making hentai once both my parents die of natural causes.
That's what's up.
So say, I've got the plots in my head. I'm sure my art skills will be so high level by then. Your minds are gonna get blown, and your dicks are gonna rocket off like a fucking NASA shuttle.
You know when the go time is, and you're simply waiting.
Yeah, exactly.
All right.
In all seriousness, though, thank you. That's so good to hear in terms of all the stuff you said. The phrase you used, heady but not inaccessible. That's like the best compliment I could ever receive. I hadn't really conceptualized my work in that way, but that's absolutely what I'm trying to go for.
Yeah, because it's always cliche, and I've talked to a bunch of artists. That book, Understanding Comics. Obviously, people have a whole discourse about that book that I have no interest in litigating. But one of the key tenets in art, as a writer, I have the easier job. At my best, if I do good alongside an artist, it's because I want to think of my writing as a screenplay, and the person making the thing is the filmmaker. I do my fucking job, they do their job, and like the artfulness of the comic comes first. The words obviously inform context or this or that, but conveying the feeling comes from the image first. And the way you meld the two, very interesting permutation of that, and the understanding of ephemera that informs it and how it comes across as a thing, which I think is noteworthy. And like, I think we should, point that shit out, because it's very hard to articulate it. It's very, this is the first time in one of these I wrote notes. Eliza is the anti-notes gang, as it were. But I'm very interested in seeing your work in the future. Like, in general, a lot of people's work in the future, and particularly yours, and how that voice develops. Are there any contemporaries that you have whose work you think is sick? If not, that's cool also. This isn't name dropping fest, but like, I'm kind of curious, like, what you like what jumps out to you.
I guess, obviously I like a ton of different stuff. I sort of confining it to comics, because I think that's sort of the relevant stuff, influential. For sure. Let's see here. I think, like I already mentioned, Hark a Vagrant, Kate Beaton stuff. She doesn't really do that anymore, but that was really good. I think in terms of web comics, the other one that I think is like grandstands above all others in terms of like narrative stuff is Octopus Pie by Meredith Gran.
Nice one.
Phenomenal. I read it once when I was like in high school, and then she re-uploaded it with commentary, and you can see the thought in all of her stuff is really, it's incredible. and it really blows out the water everything else that was coming out at that time, which is just like, oh, we're two gamers, and what if Halo was gay or whatever the fuck.
Accurate.
I'm
But,
sorry, man. I won't keep interrupted, but I will push back. I kind of want to see what would happen if Halo was gay.
Hey, agreed.
What if?
Agreed. I'm sure VG Cats has tackled that before or something. But yeah. In terms of let's see here. I follow a bunch of people I like on Twitter. I unfortunately can't like name them all now, sort of comics wise. But
there are a lot of them in print.
Yeah. Let's see here.
Like not like printed comics. I mean, like people that do like singular image print style.
See, what do you mean singular image print? Like printmaking stuff?
Like that thing on Tumblr where someone would make like a very artsy post and it's like a single standing image and it's like, I don't know, a very ornate Dark Souls guy with X amount of lovely coloring. That's what I mean as a colloquial print, not like
An illustration.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask.
I swear to God.
See, this is why you shouldn't make
They
notes.
ain't all gonna be hits.
You up. You're all fucked up because of the notes. Anyway.
It's a skill, Michelle. You can work on making better notes in the future. Don't worry about it. You can always use a thesaurus. Go in there. I think if the notes are missing the word illustration or fucking drawing, they could use some improvement.
Yeah, in terms of there's definitely some illustrators I really like. Geez, I don't know if I could name them all off the top of my head.
That's all good.
They're on Twitter. Guinevere Riley, Mr. Pibmo is really great. She has a really great style. I think that's the one big one that sort of comes to mind off the top of my head. I have a friend who's a 3D artist, Joe, Kobesoft Joe. You can find his stuff. He's doing a video game that's really cool. Otherwise, I mean, going back to comics sort of briefly, there's the ones that I mentioned. I just read, this is a, popular one, not indie by any means, but Alison Bechdel, she had Fun Home and then the sequel one about her mom, which I can't remember the name of, which kind of tells you about the quality of that one. But that's one that I read and I thought I think it's rare to find comics that, and I sort of talked about this in some of my other comics briefly, but it feels like entirely as a medium, it's kind of immature a little bit. It's hard to find stuff that is going to have the same being able to speak about issues artistically and beautifully and thoughtfully in the same way that literature or maybe even film can. And I think that Fun Home does that super duper well. All of Alison Bechdel's stuff does that really well.
No, absolutely. It's incredibly good. It's incredibly good. I don't want to say like character study, but like observational stuff where you can relate. You feel like you've at least overheard one of these conversations.
Yeah, and again, she's like not afraid to like write a lot and write in a way that is very heady and is not dumbing it down. Otherwise, I'm a huge fan of like shonen manga of all types. That you can definitely see that.
I couldn't.
Right, I've definitely. I wanted to ask a little bit about were the horns on your character, your little cartoon version of yourself, particularly inspired by Toriyama or something else?
They weren't. That the character sort of the character that I use as my avatar is really not sort of meant to be me. That kind of is just how it evolved because it was just a character I like to draw. Although a lot of people say there's one people say always it looks like Carcat from Homestuck.
Oh, I don't know that. Yeah.
Don't bother.
Yeah.
But the one that I think blew my mind because I might have subconsciously just copied it like fully is there's a character from Odd Man 11 by Domin Saman who looks exact. It's basically a girl version of that exact design. I don't.
Wild.
not sure where if it's not from there, I don't know where I took it in from. But yeah, no, definitely. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say it reminded me, just coming across it as just a reader and a kind of a civilian. It reminds me a little bit of the types of like, you know, Toriyama always drew himself as a little robot, etc.
Oh yeah,
yeah, that kind of thing.
Just to sort of interject, because we're probably coming up on 2 right now. I wanted to ask if anyone else had any more remaining questions. Eliza, Ruben, Jake.
Well, I just wanted to say that I am always this is an I'm right monologue, so just bear with me. I'm always saying,
let's go
off.
That the way that to get good fucking webcomics and good fucking comics and good fucking nerd media in general is to have it created by people who have a fucking education, who have a philosophy degree, who have a zoology degree. And it doesn't have to be formal education. It just has to be a fucking brain on their heads. And that is the only way that you're not going to get stuck in the sort of superficial Ready Player One death zone that so many webcomics and other nerd media get stuck in. And I think the problem...
It's hack. It's writing for the audience.
Exactly. It's total bullshit. And even if the people that you're writing for don't have the same educational background as you do, they're still going to be able to pick up on multiple levels of the work, and react to it more strongly. And I'm always saying this, and I mean, I was a writer at Destructoid, Kotaku, Wired. I mean, I was in the first generation of like big nerd professional journalist, blah, blah, blah. I don't do it anymore. But one of the reasons I don't do it is my fucking audience were all stupid. And I hate it because they were not able to detect that the reason that they were reacting so strongly to something like, I don't know, Portal, as opposed to whatever the recent Call of Duty thing was because it was written by people who actually had a brain, and were making references to overarching themes in their culture, you know, and actually coming up with interesting synthesis of that information, as opposed to just going, reference to thing that you've read before, you're familiar with this, react positively to it.
Yeah.
So I just want to say that, you know, hearing that Beany is a book lord like myself is highly gratifying, because I'm always saying it. And, you know, Hark a Vagrant, same thing. You know, that is a 100% humanities comic. You know, like you're gonna get the most out of that comic if you are a book nerd.
For sure.
But it's not just for book nerds. It's accessible too. So yeah, I'm right. That's all I wanted to say.
Yeah.
Well, very briefly, I might have to burst your bubble here. I'm really not actually much of a book lord. I reading actual books, I really do not read as much as I should.
Well, no, I don't mean literally.
Clap.
Yeah.
No, Ruben's right there with
Ruben's anti-book, very anti-book.
Fuck reading.
I wish I read more. But yeah. No, but I totally agree with pretty much everything you said there. Before we sorry, I don't want to keep harping on this.
You're the guest. We can't shut the fuck up. It's your ball, baby.
I would be remiss if I went on a podcast without mentioning two super good comics that people should read. And the first one is maybe my favorite comic of all time, although that in more recent time has been maybe up for grabs, and you can maybe find influences of this in my stuff as well. That's Saikyo Densetsu Kurosawa by the creator of Kaiji, which I wouldn't say is really highly intellectual, but I think has an emotional rawness which fucking knocked me off my socks. Whatever. When I read it. And the other one, which I think is just phenomenal, which I read recently, is Koko no Hito. I don't know what the English translation is, but it's based on a novel about a rock climber, like mountain climber, and the graphic novel version of it is like, it's like nothing I've ever read before, and its use of like visual metaphor, and it like, it's so chilling. It's if it's a fresh one on my list, but if I had to say my sort of things I like, I gotta get that in before the the podcast is over. Because I could recommend all, little shonen shit. But if you want something that is smart, like you mentioned, you gotta check out Coco no Hito.
I saw your tweet about that recently, and I actually it was considerate enough that it's now one of the mental note comics I have in my head to eventually get to. I also pulled it up. It looks like the English name may be The Climber. That's part of the logo. For anyone listening, just throwing that out there.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, that's great. It's cool to. I always love listening or hearing about what people that make good art are reading and what they dig.
All right. Well, just to wrap up, one, we deeply appreciate you hopping on, and we're all rooting for you. You're doing sick nasty right now. We'd love to see it. Just as a closing thought, I think looking at overarching things right now, it's very difficult to suss out and determine realness in work versus heck or whatever. And I think genuine love for subject matter absolutely cannot be removed from that. And some people are put off by it. They think it's a level of elitism, or we need to do X amount of gatekeeping to keep people out. And in some subcultures and internecine struggles between them, you don't want everything to enter the monoculture. There is a net loss to society with things like the preponderance of MCU shit. I feel like an inoculant to the monoculture eating things alive and fucking everything into a pile of rubble, a crater where thought, intent, and ideas where you're getting across new shit. A lot of people forget that a lot of MCU and DC stuff propagated by Jack Kirby in particular was shit people had no point of reference for. The New Gods as a concept was sort of an answer to religious pantheons and creating whole new gods, and that's fucking incredible, incorporating new ways of thinking and visualizing that.
Yeah, it was Kirby going stupid when he was given carte blanche for DC.
And yeah, there is a tug of war with realness, and I think when we go beyond and dig deeper and incorporate things like our humanity, and not try to maybe relate it in the broadest possible sense, but also here is me, here is the guy, here's my view, and it's you're not only conveying an idea, but maybe subconsciously a message. And I feel like sometimes that's what's missing, and it can seem corny or cringe, but there does seem to be a cogent message through your work, which is being considerate about surroundings and sort of considerate of the self in a way that goes beyond what we think of as egoism or the egoist themselves. And yeah, I'm excited about the future, and I think you've got a great future ahead of you, and I hope you have a good rest of your night. I hope all of my my co-hosts have an excellent night, and it's been a good time recording this. I'm Michelle Perez. We got Jake, we got Ruben, we got Eliza Gager, we got Beany Tuesday.
Thank you, Beany.
Great, and this has been Workinonit.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for having me on. This was a very, very fun time. Good discussions all around.
Hey, right on.
Absolutely.
Yeah, very easy going. You've got all the good stuff out there that we'll have, in the notes for the app, but you have Instagram, a Patreon, Twitter, all easily findable under Beany Tuesday.
Yeah,
if you've already been listening,
is there any plugs you want to get out of the way, homie?
I think we got through most of them, yeah.
Yeah, he pretty much nailed it. Twitter.com/Beany Tuesday, Instagram.com/Beany Tuesday, Patreon.com/Beany Tuesday, and itch.com/Beany Tuesday. That's where it is.
It's easy. It's easy peasy.
Absolutely.